I wanted to open also by sharing something that Carl Sagan once said, and that is that the cosmos are the opposite of chaos. It implies a deep interconnectedness of all things, the intricate and subtle ways that the universe was put together. So hello, my name is Chelsea Wrightson, and I am a multimedia artist here in New Mexico. And my work embodies my interest and practice in meditation, healing from loss, and restoring my connection to nature. I am a mom, and I have a studio practice here at the Harwood Art Center. So I would say that Altars of Imperfection began as my own look into and accountability for my participation in the continuation of our waste stream. I began collecting my plastic waste, if only to reuse it more than once. I wanted to reuse it more than once, and it started to pile up around me. And I noticed how my trash was really, it's just a vessel like me. It has contours and curves that someone carefully designed for planned obsolescence. And as we know, our plastic, it never really goes away. It's inserted itself into every ecosystem. It's in the air we breathe, it's in the water we drink, it's in the soil. And my thoughts shifted, and I started to rewrite my story of plastic as the enemy, as something that we needed to eradicate, and treating it like kin, because after all, it's a part of us. And humans, something that's really comforting to me is that humans, we weren't always this way. We weren't, we're not naturally wasteful. Before industrialism and the rise of capitalism, we very much took from the land and gave back to it without this barrier of plastic in our way. And I see, I go to the grocery store and I see these bananas wrapped in plastic, and I think of it as this like perfect visual imagery for like our barrier between our disconnect from nature. So with the rise of capitalism, we saw this mindset. We saw the creation of this mindset where, we'll derive happiness and pleasure from this new product that's safely and conveniently wrapped in plastic, only to be cycled through our household and into the waste basket. And so along the way, I made this connection that plastic and capitalism are in direct parallel, because they have been so deeply ingrained into our system that they feel inextricable without some massive radical change. I wanted to know what my plastics looked like as of this more permanent structure. And so I decided to start using them as molds for casting plaster of Paris. It's been this long experimentation process, but I really like how these castings are architectural. To me, they look like moldings in some Art Deco building or classical Ionic columns. So I think in the next iteration of these works, I want to actually cut down my plastics and insert them into the drying plaster to really complete the alchemy of transforming my trash into treasure and really making the plastic go away. So now I want to transition into the harmonious nature of these works, which comes from the exploration of my higher self, my future self, and looking at the mysteries of what a more beautiful world could unfurl in giving death to the things that aren't serving us any longer. And I compose these pieces as fossils in a landscape, thinking about our future generations of life and their speculation on what we are currently living through and what we are currently building into our landscape. So then I locked the compositions into space by pouring plaster around the castings and then doing some intuitive painting with different mediums on top. I tried acrylic at first, but then acrylic is a glue base and plaster is porous, so it would just unfortunately like peel right off. So I found oil to be this kind of sexy medium because it, you know, like it seeps into our skin, it would like seep into the plaster as well. So these pieces to me, they're shifts in energy from our earthly waste to like a more divine atmosphere, sort of elevating our better qualities of introspection, self-reflection, and seeking happiness. And so that's what I have to say about that series. And then it kind of segues into the second series that I started at the beginning of COVID. I had, you know, I was in quarantine and I took my pencils and my paper home and just waited for my daughter to fall asleep to start working. And what I can relate these most to is if you've ever been in a cave before and you turn your headlamp off, your brain does this really wild thing, which is, well, first your eyes don't know whether they're open or closed, but your brain does this really interesting thing where it wants to see something. It wants to see colors and shapes to try and fill in the void of utter darkness. So these pieces sort of spun from that and connect to my feelings at the beginning of the quarantine, which was like this sort of total cutoff of like social interaction. And these also remind me of the archetype of the high priestess, which is this creation story of the nothing and everything in this void, and the desire to have self-awareness. And it's a female character, and she looks into these murky waters that are moving, and these wavy particles of that are like infinitely arrangeable, and she sees her reflection, and she thinks to herself that you can make anything you want out of these particles. You can make anything you want out of yourself. So I look at these pieces as that, and as this like point of singularity, like the Big Bang, or throwing a rock into water and the ripples sort of coming out of that. Or even just going to the grocery store after a month and like seeing somebody for the first time, like eye to eye. I feel like there's a lot of eyes in this, because I was just like so shocked after I like, you know, I had my little bubble, and it was just like, oh yes, all of the people in the world were all still here. I mean, yeah, so I guess I wanna end this by saying that I overall wanted to connect my work, all of this work, to the lineages of some of the mystic artists that came before me, Agnes Pelton, Agnes Martin, Hilma af Klint, and Emma Kuntz, because they laid some of the foundation for talking about the spiritual and art, and I would like to add to that conversation.